Hello and welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue. And tonight, I want to talk about that so-called deal that Harkles have made buying the film rights to the book from Carly Fortune called Meet Me at the Lake. For starters, it's obvious that the author wrote the book with the intention of selling it to the sausages. Because in that novel, we have certain details such as set in Toronto, and you know how Meghan loves that city after Suits, but also that the mother of the male protagonist dies in a car accident just weeks of they meeting again after many years. But I'm not going to invest much time in the plot because that's not what really matters. What really interesting about this story, what this story is about is Netflix. And now that they are aware of what happened with Spotify falling into disgrace after hiring the Montecito morons for developing content that took ages and still nobody cared, Netflix doesn't want to commit the same mistake. But they knew that Harry and Meghan would not create content themselves, even if their lives depended on it. So they had to find a way to use them. And to understand the move by Netflix, we also need to be aware that in the greater scheme of things, in these circumstances of Hollywood strikes of writers and actors, Netflix is indeed the best positioned media player. And the main reason is that Netflix has a vast network of international studios to draw on that aren't affected by the Hollywood stoppage. So in the writing and acting side of things, Netflix is covered. They have access to writers and talent that are not subjected to Hollywood strikes. So you might be asking, why don't they just create content like movies or TV shows and just go with it? And the main issue is marketing. Say you have two productions, like the Extraction franchise and Squid Game, both that have been super successful. In one side, we have one that includes an A-lister, Chris Hemsworth, and the other just came out of nowhere and rocked the world. And by the way, nice Royal Rogue trivia moment. It's from Squid Game that I got this nice gingerbread meme that I've used so many times. But well, the fact is that if your production has an A-lister, it's highly likely that he or she is a member of the Screen Actors Guild. And in terms of the strikes, that forbids them from doing any marketing. Now, in these days, trying to make a bet in movies or TV shows without marketing is suicidal. So this is where the Harkles enter the scene. Not because they have talent, no, don't be silly. It's because they can generate headlines. It's not much that they can do the marketing stuff, it's that they are the marketing stuff. Now, it's uncertain if Meghan is still a member of the Screen Actors Guild, but I don't believe she cares anymore about these people. And she hasn't said anything about the strikes either. This is the thing. Netflix is doing us a favor because the streaming giant is pushing Meghan and Harry into fishing a project for production no matter what, no matter any strikes, no matter what it takes, even if it means that Meghan would be blacklisted from Hollywood or at the very least frowned upon because she not only refused to say a word of encouragement about her acting colleagues, but she actively helped Netflix circumvent the strikes by buying the rights to a promising project right under everyone's nose. Meghan executed the plan in cold blood. And before we understand why it had to be the book Meet Me at the Lake and what made this writer the one, take a look at this. In the United States, the first week that Meet Me at the Lake began trending on Google searches was in the week from April 30 to May 6. Now, guess what else happened in that exact same week? I'm sure you guessed right. The Writers Guild of America, representing more than 11,000 screenwriters, went on strike on May 2. No, this cannot be a coincidence. I have no proof, but no doubts either, that Netflix saw the strikes coming from a mile away and told the sausages that they had to find themselves a project. But talking about the sausages, there is another event that coincided with these dates, and it was the announcement that Meghan was going to be represented by WME on April 27. And you know who else is also represented by WME? Well, Carly Fortune, the author of the book itself, whose website reflected the change a couple months later. And you can also see in this website that the name Penguin Random House, the publisher of Spare, is featured. But who is Carly Fortune and why was she the chosen one? Well, for one, she's a huge, and I mean huge fan of Meghan and Harry. I think that was the first step and perhaps the most important. The second step is that her prior novel, Every Summer After, became viral on TikTok last year. And if you ask me how books get viral on TikTok, well, they actually do, plain old word of mouth. Well, in my book, pun intended, any medium that stimulates people to read is a win. But whatever, she became very successful last year, and then, when it became the moment of creating her second novel, she included all these details that curiously reflected Meghan and Harry in more than one way. So I understand this is a bit of a mess, but I will try to summarize it in a chronological order. First, Netflix realizes that betting on the Harkles was a bad investment. Their documentary did not have the impact they hoped for. Maybe it drew numbers, but not the amount of new subscribers they hoped for. So they knew that people were not going to come for the Harkles themselves. Then they had the hunch that the Harkles fading star was also happening on Spotify. So they had to use the Harkles in any way. Just not them as producers or content makers, because they suck at it. Netflix could have told the Harkles to find a worthy project, but since they cannot be trusted with any responsibility, it was Netflix scouts that spotted Carly Fortune in the wild, found out that she was a huge fan of the Harkles, and maybe suggested that she wrote a novel along the lines of the one that went wild on TikTok that could be related in some ways to them, even in some rather creepy ways. So Fortune writes the novel, but the rights are not bought by Netflix, but by Smell. That is important because it has to look like Harry and Meghan had some kind of initiative in this. That's the marketing part of the project. And even more spicy that it happens at the same time of the Hollywood strikes, since it was a move to generate content in spite of the circumstances. So Meghan stabbed all her colleagues in the back. I'm sure she has been officially blacklisted by Hollywood, and at the same time pleases her Netflix overlords with a fresh offering to produce. But I'm sure this is not Smell that is going to produce the film. No, it's going to be one of the dozens of other, more experienced studios that Netflix has access to in order to make the project in time and profitable. And as for Harry, well, he's doing okay. He's got a nice coloring book to stay busy. But jokes aside, I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. My Royal Rogues, I'm thankful that in the past 30 days, 1 million Rogues have enjoyed my videos, which I have a lot of fun making, but only a fraction of that million has subscribed. So what are you waiting for? All you need to do is to support my channel is hit the like and subscribe buttons, and it's free. And remember, much love and bliss.